What a show. Geza Kalman, Nancy G, and Dave Shields on OTR.
Steakhouse and Bar. For great steaks, good friends. See you tonight.
Yesterday's show, Gene versus Liam, bizarre. Bizarre because it was Howie Meeker in the role of General Patton. Goes to show you, you never know what to expect on this show, which is why this guy is here, pro wrestler and ultimate fighter, good friend of OTR, Geza Kalman on OTR. Nice to see you,
Michael.
You'll tell us later in the show what you're up to?
Oh, yeah.
Looking forward to that.
Oh, yeah.
She was a member of the Canadian national ski team, a good friend of mine, so I'm a little bit biased for a long time now in the ad industry. Nancy G. Hey, Nancy.
Hi, Michael.
And Dave Shields, he's an author of The Black Planet, Facing Rage During an NBA Season, University of Washington professor, right, in the English department, and Details magazine, you've written for them, and the New York Times as well. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
Give any easy marks to football players?
Any what?
Easy marks at the University of Washington for football players?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. Today is the NFL. I thought we had a new topic. Is the NFL cutting off the BS before someone gets hurt, or are they chopping the fun out of the game? And Rod shows his staying power by getting the government to loosen its purse strings. But first, eye for an eye. That kind of basic justice is what NFL players live by. But should it exist between fans and players? Meaning, if a fan throws a snowball at a player, does the player have the right to throw that snowball back? That's what the league's dealing with right now after Monday night's Raiders-Broncos game in Denver. Bronco fans hurled snowballs at the Raiders. Raider tackle Lincoln Kennedy went into the stands and hit a fan. The fan was charged with throwing the snowball. And Charles Woodson has been charged after he threw a snowball right back and struck a woman in the eye. In this case, should the league take it upon themselves to discipline the players, or is it strictly an issue for the courts? What do you guys think?
Oh, I mean, you let a couple, you let a couple fans get out of hand. I mean, you got several thousands of people assembled together. I mean, you can't. I mean, it starts with just a couple, and next thing you know, the whole stadium. I mean, you're going to get thousands and thousands of snowballs pelted upon that field. And someone was saying there was batteries. Like I think you were saying
there was batteries inside, allegedly inside some of the snowballs.
That's
so what's
too
your point?
much. I mean,
so
for a guy to go up there, I mean, you're taking the fun out of the game. I mean, the game's on TV for people to watch.
Should be allowed then to throw snowballs back?
Oh, hell, no, not throw snowballs back, but I mean, once in a while you got to make an example of somebody. Let the guy goes up there, guy hit him in the head and he pelts him back. Good for him. Good for him. Let him. Knock him right out. Teach him a lesson.
What's interesting to me is the very, very buried racial subtext to it. To me, it's interesting. I mean, you can't prove it, but I would think the very buried racial subtext to it. The players that were thrown snowballs at were black. The fans throwing it
Oh, bro,
were
I
white.
can tell you, I'm a white guy. If I got hit with a snowball playing a game, I'd go up there and hit a guy too. I don't think it's got anything to do with
But let's just take the incidents. The Latrell Sprewell incident of the Golden State Warriors, the fans throwing invective at Sprewell and Sprewell calling back to them. Those fans were white. To me, and this is part of what my book deals with, I do think there's a kind of implicit subtext of black players can't stand justifiably to be treated like mere meat on the field, where these white fans can do virtually anything without
well, I don't think any of the fans should be able to do anything. I mean, Latrell Sprewell, he should be able to stand up for himself too. I don't care if it's white fans yelling at him or black fans yelling at him. But I mean, they don't want to be treated like a piece of meat. Holy crap, they're an expensive piece of meat.
Right.
I mean, these guys are getting paid millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah, but definitely
the stuff I do is a fraction of that money.
Nancy?
And
hold on.
Well, I mean, the players have a right to have some definite responsibility, but I think going up in the stands like that is totally uncalled for. I mean, you don't go, that's wrong sportsmanship. I mean, you're out on the field, you're representing your team.
Sure, but there comes a point where enough is enough. Enough is enough. I mean, yeah, there are certain boundaries set out there.
It's the fans that make them the person that they are.
What are you going to do? You're going to tell the guy to, I'll meet you in the parking lot after. What's the difference? Just go up there right now.
Well, it's the fans that make them heroic. It's the fans that give them the paycheck because they're so popular. I mean, they've got to be able to take that. Well, is that the reason then they should, I should take it then? I mean, if I'm going to a show and I'm wrestling on a show, sure, that fan is the one that bought the ticket.
But if that bastard is throwing a beer bottle at me, hits me in the back of the head, and I get cut, I should just say, hey, well, you know what? He bought my ticket. That's nice of him.
If
I could, in America, you can. You can't jump the guardrails and take it out on a guy because you're going to get sued. You're going to get charged.
And well, you should.
I'd love to go to Japan.
Hold on a second here. Isn't there a case to be made, which is, yeah, I mean, no one's going to say, yeah, fans should be able to throw a bottle and cut your head off, but no one's going to say that. But there's ways that that fan can be disciplined besides players going up and beating them.
Yeah, but
there's other ways that it can be done.
There's other ways anything could be done. I'm just saying it's a heat of the moment thing.
Should the league be stepping into this and maybe punishing the Denver Broncos? Because keep in mind, in Europe, and we were looking up examples of this, and there were 5 or 6 really good ones. Spanish Football Federation forcing club Sevilla to play at a neutral site after one of their fans hit a linesman with a bottle. Should the Broncos be punished because their fans acted inappropriately?
It's not a bad idea to have some kind of penalty, not just financial, but perhaps actual real penalties that you start the following game 6 points down. I mean, something extremely radical would dramatically change fan play.
Where's it going to end? You start by penalizing a team points before they even start? I mean, you can't even penalize the fans. I mean, come on, you know how the Americans are. I mean, they're not going to, I mean, what an uproar if you're going to say, oh, the fans are going to be kicked out.
The Americans, what does that mean exactly?
Oh, you guys, I mean, Canadians, we're great. We're great people, but we're laid back.
250 million people are precisely the same. I mean, what do you mean by the Americans?
More or less. There's 2. I mean, there's you know, I mean, you got your American fans. I mean, they kill us. I mean, they're so more patriotic. I think they're a lot more loyal. You know what I mean? That's what's going to happen. I mean, you know,
patriotic, loyal, and are you saying violent as well?
A lot more than us? Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah, a lot more violent.
I don't think so at all. Why would you think that they're more violent?
Just overall in society. I'm not talking at the sports games, but overall, I mean, come on. I mean, you know, Canadians around the world, we're looked at as, you know, we're the nice people. You know, we're the nice country and stuff like that.
I don't think Dave's looking at us that way right now.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we're going to take a break. This is great discussion. When we return, if he's mad at him and it's the NFL, does he have the right to say, this is what I'm going to do? The National Football League says, We'll talk about that and whether it's appropriate when OTR returns.
I mean, if I look at you and I'm angry and I say, oh, I'm going to get you, I'm going to cut your throat, well, you could probably charge me in today's society.
The NFL, though, is sort of framed theater. It's taking place in a sort of playful space.
It has become the rage in the National Football League. If you don't like a guy, instead of taunting him, instead of telling him what you're going to do, this is the motion. It has come from guys like Keyshawn Johnson, right there. It has come from Detroit Lions all across the league. And in fact, one of the most famous guys is this guy, Brett Favre. Well, the league says, and I'm quoting George Young, one of the league's vice presidents, it depicts an unacceptable act of violence. They're saying they'll fine you $2,500 and penalize you 15 yards if you do it. Is that an appropriate moral stand by the National Football League or just an overreaction?
Bad overreaction, I think. I think your point earlier when we were talking seems to me a good one, that the NFL's selling violence. The idea that we make this incredibly Mickey Mouse distinction between people. I mean, every week players are getting badly injured, and because this gesture somehow suggests maybe, I don't know, something slightly gang-related. I don't know what.
Somehow I think it is. I mean, I don't think it's an overreaction. I don't think it's an overreaction. I mean, it's like you get so many celebrations. There's touchdown dances. You know what I mean? What was there last year? That
the chicken dance.
The chicken dance, and then years ago the icky shuffle and stuff like that.
But you're talking about.
Yeah, the dirty bird. I mean, I think it is bad because if I get mad at someone on the streets or someone pisses me off in their car and stuff like that,
which I'm sure happens quite frequently.
It happens quite a bit, unfortunately. I don't know if it's me or them, but I don't get out of my car and I don't look at them and then do some kind of dance or do an icky shuffle. I tell them I'm going to get them. I mean, that is a clear gesture to. I know they're not looking at it that sense. They're looking at it in a football sense, but. It is. I think, you know, like doing the
sending a message. It's sending a message, which is, I'm going to get you.
But I think it's just total poor sportsmanship. I mean, as far as kids are concerned and they're watching that, it totally replicates this violence in sports that we don't want kids to see. And it's not about violence. So think it's uncalled for.
Would you ban it, Nancy? You would ban it?
Yeah, I think that
I would ban it myself too, definitely.
Yeah, but don't
definitely.
you see?
There's. I mean, it is. So it's like Nancy said. It's with the kids. It's bad.
But
it's
I mean,
bad.
the one thing they should ban is the end zone prayer. That's the one thing I think they should ban. If they're going to ban this, they should also ban the prayer after the touchdown.
I mean, one's religious and one's just a.
But
I mean,
you're also
anybody
expressing
can
a
do that,
particular
right?
belief. I mean, to me, it's the goofiest thing to say the NFL is completely selling violence. The idea that you can't sort of make this childlike gesture seems to me just complete nonsense.
Childlike gesture.
I mean,
I'm
sure it's somewhere along you can get someone to charge you
the NFL is
with
nothing but
threatening violence or a death threat against you. I mean, if I look at you and I'm angry, and I say, "Oh, I'm going to get you. I'm going to cut your throat," well, you could probably charge me in today's society.
The NFL, though, is sort of framed theater. It's taking place in a sort of playful space. It's not car rage in which you're going like that to somebody, cutting you off at
well, then where are they going to stop
stoplight.
it, okay? From here, next thing you know, the player's going to sit there and he's going to go, "I'm going to get you."
Yeah.
Wait till
I'm
after
sure
the
they
game.
do that
They're
all
going to
the
make
time.
other
But
gestures.
hold on here. If the National Football League, Dave's point is this, and I agree with him, if the National Football League is opposed to violence, why is it selling its game through the use of violence? Saying, you know, John, it's Thanksgiving Day for the wars, and they show two guys butting heads and smacking each other. I mean, it's these kind of hits that the commentators go, "Woo! Did you see that hit? What a hit!" That's what they build their game
How
on.
else are you going to sell it?
Because it's making the violence explicit. That in the game itself, the violence is actually slightly implied, but by making that gesture, they're making it extremely obvious. Rather like the NBA sells race as sort of the hip-hop sport, but the moment that race becomes a kind of topic, that topic gets denounced.
All right. Nicely put by all three of you. According to one of you, it stays, two of you, it goes. When we return, we'll talk about the notion of violence. And we all love it in boxing. And that's what the appeal is all about when OTR returns.
I mean, I don't think anybody, watches a boxing match or watches any kind of, combative competition to sit there and go, "Oh, hell, maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe that guy will die today." You know what I mean? A good smack to the head will kill him.
There's a boxer, Stephen Johnson, who is clinging to life. At the time that we taped the show in an Atlantic City hospital, he could have passed away because his injuries are that serious. He was boxing Saturday night. He was knocked unconscious. Here's the issue. Nobody wants to see a guy taken out in a stretcher, and no one wants to see a guy lose his life. But is that at least in part the appeal of boxing? The threat that something grave could happen?
I don't think people think about that when they watch it. I mean, I don't think anybody, watches a boxing match or watches any kind of, combative competition to sit there and go, "Oh, hell, maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe that guy will die today." You know what I mean? A good smack to the head will kill him. I mean,
do we want knockdowns, though?
Oh, people, of course.
Well,
of course. Did you watch the Lewis and Holyfield fight? I mean,
I definitely think that people want to see people getting hurt and the injuries. I mean, that's what sells. It's why people stop on the highway and look at a car accident. And it's always about wanting to talk about something. So in a boxing match, when people are constantly getting hurt, I think it creates more audience. People want to talk about it. People want to see someone get hurt.
Completely. I mean, just because people don't consciously think about it doesn't mean that's not the reason they're there. I mean, boxing is sport's guiltiest, most primitive pleasure. I mean, that's obvious. I mean, that doesn't mean that it shouldn't be around. But it is a guilty pleasure par excellence to me. I mean, people go to witness other people's pain. Well, that's what it's about.
Yeah, it is guilty of that. I mean, I'll admit it because I mean, I do box and I don't do professionally, but
you ultimate
I spar
fight
in
as well.
boxing.
You do no holds barred fighting.
And I'll tell you,
is the appeal of that not the scientific nature? Yes, there's a community who wants to watch and see the different skills and see the different moves, but the appeal of ultimate fighting since the beginning has been the risk that something horrible could happen in the hexagon.
Octagon. But yes, it is.
You're going to correct me on one side?
Yeah. It's like, why do people go to the Indy 500? They wouldn't say it. They're going to see death. That we are a death-haunted species.
Well,
there were mortal people.
Guess, but, you know,
and there's a kind of odd, safe pleasure in seeing someone else die because that day someone else died, you didn't.
I wouldn't go as far as saying they're going to see death.
People,
I mean, there's no way.
They don't.
No way. I mean, they want the excitement. They want the thrill.
People. They want to see people who are willing to push themselves to the edge.
They want
to make it look like, oh man, he's cutting it close. But it's like, okay, he got knocked out. He got knocked out several months ago, you said, right? And Canada, you were saying...
He got out by Fitzroy Vanderpool.
And Canada imposed...
In Toronto, and he had a suspension imposed on him for medical reasons, which was not observed in the United States. Nobody checked out his record
But that was back when? In April, you said?
That was in April.
I mean, usually it's a 90-day automatic suspension.
But we're not talking about whether he should even be in the ring.
People look at knocked out as just a concussion. You know, people almost look at it the same. Oh, he got a concussion. You know, it's still brain injury and stuff like that. I mean, how many hockey players do you know where, oh, he's on his 12th concussion, it might be the last one, and they go back out there and they play again? I mean, it's up to each individual.
It's the appeal, but we're not talking into the personal responsibility here. We're talking about the responsibility of the fans and what the fans want. And Nancy, you skied for years. You did downhill skiing, you did slalom skiing, giant slalom. Downhill skiing ratings are enormously greater than slalom, and the reason is what?
Well, I think there's two things. Obviously, the excitement, but because Canadian skiers have always excelled a lot, like to higher standards. I mean, you have the Steve Podborskys, the Todd Brookers, that are at the top in the world, but you never see the technical skiers reach that level. So you want to see the people who win. So it's a higher risk sport, but also the people who are winning are the ones who are racing downhill.
Downhill skiing is the marquee event of the Olympic Games. The men's downhill is the first event at the Olympic Games. It's the marquee event, not because Canadians do well, I don't think, but because of the thrill and the danger.
Yeah, I was going to connect it too. I bring it back to my book a bit, but that fans will go to a game, supposedly get upset when there's some big fracas between, say, Sprewell and the referee, or between J.R. Ryder and the coach. That's the reason people go, to see danger, to see trouble, to see bad behavior. And yet at the same time to say, oh no, that was terrible. Wasn't that terrible when Scottie Pippen threw the chair at the coach? That's what they wanted, but they would not consciously say that. I just think sports...
Well, everybody likes to be hypocritical.
I just think watching sports is a deeply vicarious, very guilty pleasure. And the more danger, the better.
I agree.
Danger cells,
I just have one question for you. Would you like a pillow to make your foot a little bit more comfortable?
I like the hard surface.
Okay, I just wanted to know.
Thank you.
Make sure that you're nice and comfy.
No problem.
All right, we'll take a break. When we return, we'll talk about the situation in Ottawa and tax breaks. We want to know what you think of the topics in the show and all kinds of stuff like that. Let us know via the email. We'll give you our addresses in a moment. Right now, here's a sampling of what we received regarding yesterday's show. Michael, Howie Meeker is awesome. You need more guests like him. Howie tells it like it is and holds no punches. He should be inducted into the OTR Hall of Fame. You know what? I agree with that. Maybe we'll even let him in after a year like Wayne Gretzky. Nah, shouldn't have that rule. Anyway, here's a comment regarding the show. Mike, I hate you. If I'm eating dinner while your show is on, I almost always puke. OTR rules. Wow. Well, if OTR rules, I'm thinking maybe it's your cooking that's making you puke. Anyway, let us know what you think of the show, and here are our addresses. We'll talk about giving money to sports teams when others in society maybe are needier. Are they? When OTR returns. And he'll make the huge announcement on the show. Dave Shields, I got to say, I'm a little bit biased, but Black Planet facing race, I said rage before, race during an NBA season, may be the definitive off-the-record book. This is outstanding. Thanks for joining us today. Tell me about the book.
Well, I spent a year going to Sonics games during the 94-95 season, and this was during the O.J. trial. It was just after Clarence Thomas and Rodney King. And the book's about how white men like myself think about and talk about black heroes, black scapegoats, black bodies.
Excellent. And you'll be reading from this book tonight in Toronto at the Harbourfront Reading Series, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. That's at 235 Queens Quay West. Geza Kalman.
Hey.
You're wrestling. You're wrestling these days, right?
Yep.
Where are you?
Thursday night, November 25th at the Cambridge Newfoundland Club. I'll be defending my wrestling title there.
Right, and then?
And then...
what title do you have, by the way? I mean, excuse me for being ignorant, but what title do you have?
I have the UCW heavyweight title. I forgot which one I had.
That's right. It can happen. You have so many. All right. Before we go, in Ottawa, they've now approved a 75% tax break for the Ottawa Senators. Is that a government's place to give a team like the Ottawa Senators a tax break in this situation? Very hot debate in Canada right now.
Definitely not.
No way. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, Canada, you know, we're basically almost like the country that, you know, bred hockey players for the longest time, you know, for the NHL, and we used to have lots of teams.
I think we have. I think it's a good idea. We have to keep this team in Canada. I mean, we're losing. Canada's losing all their NHL teams. We've got to do everything possible to keep this one in Canada. So I think
you got to do something. You got to do something.
If they can do that,
75% tax break, though.
I'd love
a 75% tax break on my paycheck every 2 weeks.
As a general principle, how does one justify government subsidy to a purely private business just because it has a sort of large public audience?
I don't want them to give them.
Right. No,
we give private businesses breaks all the time. If they're good for our society, we give them incentives. So why not a hockey team?
The incentive is rarely this large. I mean, there's slight tax breaks here and there to basically, I mean, in Seattle, the Seattle Mariners, the city just simply gave the team.
All right, I got to cut you guys off. This is a discussion for another day, and I hope you guys will join us another day on Off the Record. Kind of an unusual show, but a great one. It was a lot of fun. We'll see you next time on Off the Record.